FM 96.3 Waupaca Radio Community Conversation. I'm Wayne, and my guest today, I think I know you.
I think I know you.
Aaron Jensen, City Administrator. How you doing, sir?
Fantastic. How are you, Wayne?
Awesome.
Good.
What would you like to talk about today?
Well, I think we're going to talk a little bit about community demographics, some challenges facing rural communities in our state and all across America.
Oh, we're getting deep.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Well, start.
Yeah. So one thing, we've been having a lot of conversations around these demographics and how they affect a lot of things that are happening in our communities. And they affect us as a municipality. They affect our school districts. They affect our businesses that are looking for workers. And so I guess we wanted to get on and have that conversation and share with everyone else the conversation that we're having quite a bit within our staff and within our community partners. And that is that our populations in rural areas especially, or if you get away from if you're looking at Wisconsin, if you get away from the Green Bay and the Eau Claires and the La Crosses and the Milwaukee, Madison, Fox Valley, so the kind of the hubs that you think of when you think of the bigger cities, or even the college towns, what's happening in those areas? Well, those areas outside of those cities, they saw steady growth, through the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. And then since 2010, that hasn't been the case.
Well, everything kind of goes, meaning of life, everything goes full circle because everybody back in those decades moved out of the city to get away.
Yeah. And there are still people doing that.
Of course, but not in the droves that they did.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think part of it too is just there are less people in general. I mean, people are having less kids. People that are 25 to really 40 now have had less kids than my parents did, who are in there. I won't, to be nice to them, I won't say.
Well, I won't tell you my age, 50s. But I don't have any.
So, when maybe a normal household would have been 3 or 4 kids decades ago, now it's maybe 1 or 2.
Well, decades ago too, more farmers.
Yep.
More small community farmers, not big manufacturing conglomerate super farmers.
Yep.
And families had more kids so that they could help with the farm.
Right. No, I think that's another good point, and I think that's a good illustration of kind of what it looked like then and maybe what it looks like now. So you couple kind of the people having less kids, a lower really human replacement rate, to the baby boomer generation that's moving, that has been in the workforce for so long that now is moving out of the workforce. And what does that mean for all of our communities?
It means they're getting old.
It means, and it means that jobs are opening.
Community.
It means that jobs are opening up, and we may not have as many people to fill those jobs that are being left. So it's a challenge. And if you look at the state of Wisconsin in general, in the last 6 years, I believe we've only had a net in-migration 2 of the last 6 years. So, and that was the recent 2 years, but it's for the most part, it's staying pretty flat. So if you're talking about towns in Wisconsin, we're all competing for the same people. So it's not like we have 50,000 people moving into the state of Wisconsin every single year. We have
news update,
maybe 1 or 2.
We have winter here.
We do have winter here. We do have winter here, which I don't, I don't mind it. Many people do. So, the challenge is how do we kind of position ourselves as a rural community, a town of 6,000, I think I just said on a different radio thing I was just on, we have 6,000 people in the city, about 15,500 in the area if you count our surrounding townships. So, how do we...
Say that again?
About 15,500 in the area.
That doesn't even fill the Pfizer form.
So, no. But it's a little bigger than what you think. When you look at a population size and see 6,000, it doesn't probably tell the whole story about Waupaca, right? Yeah. So, anyway, how do we, what do we do to put ourselves maybe ahead of some of those communities that are also competing for people? And those are conversations we're having right now, because ultimately it affects, the way taxes work and levy limits and so on and so forth. We're all affected by net new construction, and that's the only way we can provide more services and continue to improve what we're doing. From a school district standpoint, obviously enrollment numbers for students impacts financial aids from the state. And I won't speak too much on that because I'm not the school district, but I do know that a lot of school districts are seeing that impact across the state, and Waupaca is no different. From if you're running a business standpoint, if you have those jobs that are being left by that baby boomer generation, what does that look like? Are you able to fill those jobs? Are you not? And I do know that that's a struggle for everywhere right now, and just being able to find workforce. So we need people.
Now, okay, this brings up the question then.
All right, let's hear it.
Is it because we don't have people to fill the jobs, or is it because we have people that don't want to work?
Honestly, I think we don't have the people to fill the jobs. Our unemployment rate in the county right now is under 3%. It's at like 2.8% last I checked.
Okay.
The natural unemployment rate is in the 5s. So, there's a certain segment of the population that is not able to work, or for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So what that tells us is we just don't have any people left to plug into jobs when you're looking from a county standpoint. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit, but
Sure. Well, here's the other flip side too. Mm-hmm. As a worker, and I'm not speaking of all businesses, mm-hmm. but the business structure has changed as well for the employee from the employer. Mm-hmm. You used to have the full benefits and the 3 weeks vacation, and you put in so many years and you get the gold watch.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Now, if we can pay you minimum wage and give you no benefits, that's what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So it's a catch-22, I think, from that standpoint.
Yeah, so I can just speak to some of the employers around here, and I know that they've been pretty proactive in putting together good strategies and fair compensations, or more than fair compensations, where they're providing really, really good jobs with good benefits, and they're still struggling to get people because they're not here, right?
Right.
So it eventually does become a numbers game. And those are the conversations we're having with our community partners, such as the school district and Fox Valley Tech and Chamber of Commerce, and then also some of our larger employers in the community, to say, okay, how do we get the smartest people with the most experience in a diverse amount of areas around the same table, and how do we bring our knowledge together to come up with some action strategies to solve a problem that is not easily solved, right? So everybody in the country in our situation is dealing with the same thing. I think with that, comes patience a little bit. It's not going to get solved overnight. And if you look at it from a giant perspective like that, it can be daunting. I think you have to look at it one piece at a time, but we got to start somewhere. We have to start doing something, and those conversations have just started here in Waupaca, and we have the right people at the table, and I'm confident we will make progress in that area.
Now, some communities, depending on the season and the business and what goes on in that world, will actually bus in workers for the jobs, but that's not a long-term solution, because you want people to live here,
right,
and spend that income in our area, and you want their kids to go to our schools, correct?
I think in an ideal world, yes. Is that a long-term solution for some? Maybe it is. I don't know, because I guess that's not my area of expertise. But I can tell you that I certainly would think that, people that live here and work here and spend money here and go to our schools, that's an ideal scenario for everybody. So
okay, so now we're talking about, we have hopefully not too much of a shortage of people. Mm-hmm. And I drove by Gusmer the other day. Looks, they're expanding. They're like doubling in size. I haven't talked to anybody about the number of jobs that are. I know it's not for storage. You know, they must have some kind of, hopefully, some kind of plan to employ more people.
No, they do. They know what they're doing. They have, that does create a number of jobs, and I know they have plans to fill those. What those exactly are, I'm not sure. But yeah, we're fortunate enough to see some of those projects in our community still. So even with the challenges we're talking about, you know, we have seen some pretty awesome projects just in this past year with that project. And you know, there was a big expansion at the Waupaca Foundry recently, and yeah, so we're still seeing some of that, but we're also still hearing with the same people and with others that yeah, it's the people shortage is a challenge, and it's something that we're going to have to try to make a positive impact on here.
And I think technology, just everything changes in the world all the time. And, you know, people move, and like you said, there's less people just because there's less babies. It's just a different world we live in.
Right.
Than
it is. Yeah. Well,
40
the
years
world's
ago.
changing all the time. Right. Yeah. And that's a good thing. Usually, for the most part, it's...
it always brings a challenge.
Right.
I mean, some people, it scares some people, but I'm like, that's what makes everything go round.
Right. We have to adapt, right?
Right.
And, you know, the good thing about where we're sitting, I think, as a community, if we try to position ourselves to compete for these people, we have a pretty good place to start from. You know, I think we have so many assets here in the city of Waupaca and in the area that it does naturally put us ahead of some areas, in my opinion. Now, I'm a homer. I've grew up here. I lived here for a long time.
At the very least, we have at least for the 4 months out of the year, we do have a tourist trade as well.
Yeah.
So
right.
that's obviously got to help things in the long run.
Absolutely.
But that's not going to sustain us.
Well, you know, we have obviously, the chain of lakes, and we talk about the chain of lakes all the time, but we have a number of other beautiful lakes in the area. One right here in the city. So if you take I guess the notoriety and the exposure we get from the chain, and you take a look at how many people get to see Waupaca on a regular basis, you look at our Main Street, for example, too. I mean, you look at the chain as a tourist thing, you look at the Main Street, that's a historic Main Street that there's not a lot of communities that have the things that we do on our Main Street. It's really, it's a great asset for our whole area and for the city especially.
Well, finally, I'm going to bring up a subject we talked about, you know, I don't know, last month, 2 months ago. Obviously, we lost a couple businesses. I think we just lost another one.
Yeah.
Is there any progress on those? And, you know, are we working hard on filling those slots and thinking outside the box and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so is there let's just talk about it. The businesses we're talking about are our retail, right? Our Kmart, our Shopco that recently went out of business. We just learned this week actually that Pizza Hut went out.
That's what I'm referring to.
Right. And
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think
I didn't want to throw you in front of the bus.
No, that's all right.
It just happened.
Right. That happens a lot. No. So the reality is there's always businesses moving in and out of town over the course of time, and it will continue to happen forever. Now, these ones might be very, very visible, you know, but retail, that's no different than anywhere else in the state or anywhere else in the country, and we talked about that in our last segment. This is a challenge everywhere. What are we doing about it? That's a great question. We do know that it's going to be a huge challenge to get retail, a big box store or something like that into a community like ours, just because of the dynamics that Amazon has on the market.
We talk
and some of the online shopping, so on and so forth. That, you know, me and Andrew Dane, who was actually on that last segment, just had a conversation this week about, hey, you know, we've been reaching out to some contacts and just trying to make that connection with some of these places to see where it will lead. But, you know, what else can we be doing? What strategically, what else can we be doing marketing ourselves?
What aren't we thinking about?
Right.
There's got to be
Right.
another angle.
Absolutely. So those are conversations that we'll be having. And like I've said before, the whole comp plan and zoning process, you got to look at alternative uses for those in case a big box retail doesn't come in, right? So we don't want a gray field, as they call them, and we don't want parking lots growing weeds and so on and so forth. That doesn't look great on the front step.
Legalized horse racing.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, that one hasn't come up yet. That is a first. I'll have to make a note. So, I think we're doing a number of different things. One of them is looking at future uses, right, of those areas. One of them is trying to come up with strategies to reach out to those and see if they can have an interest here. And then, like, for example, Pizza Hut, everything we're talking about is part of a national trend. So Pizza Hut, there was an article in the New York Times or something the other day that they're downsizing. They're trying to go to more of a delivery base, get out of the dine-in. And that impacts us and tons of others. So I think like I said, it's cyclical. There are plenty of great things happening as well. We just had a yoga studio open. We've got those expansions we just talked about earlier in the segment. Unfortunately, it's those other ones that get talked about, and I understand that.
Well, that's just the nature of the human race too.
Yeah,
sometimes you forget about the good stuff and you focus on the, well, if your Friday night plan was to go to Pizza Hut every night with the family and now Pizza Hut's gone, of course you're going to focus on that because that's something you do.
Correct.
So
absolutely.
But that's,
it's part of it.
That's the way the ball bounces, and
right.
Well, thanks for coming in. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I don't think so. I just kind of wanted to get the conversation out there. I know, another, I guess just a really small piece of this too is, as we try to attract people, I think housing is an extremely important thing. Talk about development. We've been pretty lucky. We've had a couple multi-unit housing complexes go up, and we continue conversations with people that are interested in maybe doing some of the same, more of the same. So yeah, it's going to be exciting conversations on what we are going to do to set us apart from those like us. And I look forward to having those conversations with some of the best in our community and for everyone else in our community.
Me too.
All right, Wayne. Thanks for having me on. As always.
I look forward to speaking to you again next month, sir.
Sounds good. And hey, what Packers play at what time? 5:20?
5:40.
Are they going to beat the Seahawks?
No.
What?
So
go Pack, go.
Community Conversation, FM 96.3, City Administrator Aaron Jensen. I'm Wayne. See ya.
Thanks, Wayne.